Now, Kenya's first operational 3U Earth observation satellite, dubbed the Taifa-1 satellite, is set to be launched into space next week by the Kenya Space Agency, KSA, with the help of Space Exploration Technologies Corporation, SpaceX. According to Defense Principal Secretary Patrick Mariru, the satellite was built at a cost of 50 million shillings. The satellite will be launched in Vandenberg Base, California, USA, aboard Falcon 9 rockets. Now, tonight on Newswatch, Brigadier Hilary Kipkosgei, the Acting Director General at the Kenya Space Agency, is here to discuss with us this huge milestone for Kenya and what we possibly stand to benefit from the first ever Earth observation satellite. This coming up after this short break. Okay, we now invite you to join us in this conversation when we are delving into this topic on the observation satellite that is being launched just when we are marking Easter. It's momentous. So to delve into this conversation is Brigadier Hilary Kipkosgei, the Acting Director General at the Kenya Space Agency. Karibu sana to Hope TV.
Thank you very much.
We look and live here.
Thank you very much.
So perhaps for a layman, what does this observation satellite actually do?
So thank you very much for inviting me to the studio, and good evening, viewers. A 3U, or an Earth observation satellite, is basically a camera that looks on the Earth and takes images of the Earth's surface. And from that, you're able to make various, derive various insights and interpretations of what is actually happening on Earth. So that is what an Earth observation satellite actually means.
Okay. Yes. So we coined it Taifa-1. And the inspiration behind that is?
So Taifa-1, we were trying to strike two birds with one stone. Taifa, of course, meaning nation, and one, a unifying factor, firstly. And then secondly, this is hoped to be the first of a series of satellites that we intend to work on in the coming years so that we have a constellation.
Was it coincidental that this is supposed to be launched during the Easter break? Or was it deliberate?
I would say that it is coincidental. Okay. It is not deliberate. The reason being that we are launching this satellite alongside other satellites. And we normally go by the schedule of the consigner, in this particular case, SpaceX. Our satellite is a small satellite. It's not one of those satellites that you launch on its own. So it has to go with other satellites which are destined to the same destination. And that is how we were scheduled to actually go in this ride, which is scheduled to go in on 10th of April.
Awesome.
Yes.
So the data that the satellite is supposed to be gathering is going towards information such as climate change, agriculture?
Yes. So Earth observation satellites, basically, as I said, take imagery of the Earth. And from those imageries, you can make various interpretations. You can, like, for example, take interpretations of what is on the land cover, for example, what is under forested area, what is under crop, what is under pastures, of course, what is under water bodies, forested areas, areas that could be, like, for example, the ocean. So you're able to characterize land use depending on what feature is actually covering that surface. And if you want to utilize it for agriculture, for example, from that imagery, you're able to characterize land that is under maize, different from land that is under wheat, different from land that is under beans, for example.
Okay.
And from just a map that has been processed, you can actually design the total acreage under, for example, maize. And you can monitor over time the condition of that crop and give a prediction of the kind of yield you're going to expect in a particular season from that particular crop.
I'm thinking off my head, when we're having challenges in the country such as banditry,
yes,
can that kind of satellite give information for security purposes?
Yes. Earth observation is utilized for various purposes. Okay. It is used for agriculture, it is used for natural resources management, and in natural resources we are talking of wildlife, we are talking of forestry, we are talking of water resources. It is used for disaster risk management. So if you want to see, for example, landslides, you know, the effect, devastation that has been brought about by some catastrophe, you're able to see the extent, and from it you can direct response efforts. And to answer your question directly, yes, which was on security,
yes,
depending on what I would say the finality or the fineness of the resolution, you can actually track movement of even people.
Okay.
So if you have a situation like we have in some parts of our country and you are interested in knowing where the troublemakers are, it is possible with some kind of Earth observation satellites to be able to actually track individual movements or monitor, track, and if necessary, respond to those situations.
You mentioned other satellites as well. What others do we have as a country, or they're out there?
So what we have right now is Earth observation, or that is what we intend to launch. But Earth observation is just one suite of applications when it comes to satellite technologies. We also have satellite communications, which is common like in television broadcasting. We also have navigation, positioning, and timing satellites, and those are used for applications like the GPS, which most of Kenyans are aware about. And we also have satellites that are used for meteorology, so for weather forecasting and climatology. The others that are used for just studying what is happening out there in space, astronomy and astrophysics, just understanding what is happening out there in space. Now, this particular satellite is just specifically for measuring events that or taking measurements of what is happening on Earth and taking pictures.
It's a first of its kind by the country.
Yes. We have launched a satellite before. We did launch a satellite in 2018. But that was just the first effort. It was a satellite almost a third of what we are going to launch now in terms of dimension. And being the first satellite in 2018, it didn't have much capability. It was really a technology demonstrator. We needed to give our engineers the confidence, one, to know what are the subsystems in a typical satellite. So that was like, you know, a capacity building tool.
Yes.
And we have now since graduated and moved on now to designing an operational satellite. So we call this the first operational satellite.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So is this the first in Africa as well? I know there's about 14 countries that are already doing satellite observation. Is it the same thing?
So different countries in Africa have launched some satellites. We have a number of countries. Probably, I don't have the number right at the top of my head, but it could be in the tens.
Okay.
Some have communication satellites. Others, and a majority of them, have Earth observation satellites. There are very few who have done other satellites, specifically on navigation and positioning. But the bulk of the satellites are Earth observation.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that a need in Africa? What do you think? Our most pressing need as Africa, is it to observe our trends, our agricultural trends, and is that the most pressing need?
Yes, and this was deliberate.
Okay.
Going Earth observation was very deliberate because we were trying to, or we are seeking to address the pain points that we face. So if you look at the problem sets that we are facing around climate change, around agriculture and food security or lack of thereof, drought, issues to do with natural resources management, disasters. Those are the areas that we feel we have the real pain points. And that is what informed our desire to come up with the solutions that would address those specific pain points.
Okay.
Yes.
So, talk to us a bit about the Kenya Space Agency, its mandate.
Yes.
And young people right now are, thinking of venturing. A lot of us are into technology and thinking of how to explore ICT and those kinds of things.
Yes.
So would venturing into space technology an area that perhaps the young people should also venture into, especially the Kenyan young people? Because when you talk about people in the Western culture, space exploration, we have NASA. It's not a huge, humongous thing. Here in Kenya, when a young person tells you they want to go into space, you'd look at them and wonder, are you watching too much movies, or is that a practical thing?
Yes.
What would you say about the Kenyan youth who'd want to venture into space exploration as a career?
So, space exploration and exploitation, and generally careers in space science and technologies, is an area that our youth should, seriously consider going into. And probably I should start with the Kenya Space Agency because that is what you asked first.
Yeah.
So the Kenya Space Agency is a state corporation under the Ministry of Defense. It was established in 2017 with the mandate to promote, to coordinate, and to regulate space-related activities.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? We are coming from a background of low utilization of generally space services and technologies in this country. There is low utilization, there is low investment, and therefore it was necessary to have a body that would basically nurture the growth of the space sector in this country. And that is the real purpose of why the Kenya Space Agency was set up, to nurture the growth and development of Kenya's space sector. What do? We build capacity amongst our government ministries and departments and agencies in utilization of space services and technologies. We work with ministries like Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Environment and Forestry, specifically in using space-derived data to make decision support, for example, towards agriculture or in natural resources management. That is one stream of line of activity, enhanced utilization of space services. The other line of activities is around developing our national space capability. And this is where now the issue of developing the satellite comes in, because we do not want as a nation to be forever dependent on services that are being rendered by vendors or other operators. We also feel that there has to be a balance between what we procure as a service plus what we also render out of our own capability. And the effort towards space systems engineering is intended to develop our national capability. We started with a small 1U satellite. Now we are at 3U. We are on course also to go into a slightly bigger one, a 6U.
6U.
Yes, and hopefully we'll extend this single satellite to a constellation of satellites.
Wow.
Now coming to the youth.
Yeah.
The pathway to space science and technologies obviously requires that you have a foundation in the STEM subjects, GeoSTEM. However, space is multidisciplinary, so you don't have to be just purely, science-oriented. As a matter of fact, at the Kenya Space Agency, I have professionals who are from energy background, who are from environmental background, who are from meteorological background, who are not engineering related. But because space finds applications across so many disciplines, we have all these professionals at the agency. So for our youth, there are a lot of opportunities. This is the new frontier technology, and we are encouraging our youth to pursue future careers in space sciences and technologies.
Awesome.
Yes.
So thank you. Maybe perhaps your wrapping up comments would be on this launch. So what is exactly supposed to be happening? I know we read there's a delegation of Kenyans that will be going to California for this. Maybe talk about that a bit.
Yes. So the launch is an exciting moment for Kenya. It's coming at Easter. It is also coming at a time after we've had not so much good news about the country in the recent past. So this is a moment of national pride, obviously, because we are joining the Super League of Nations in Africa that are, launching satellites and spacefaring for that matter. So it's a moment to savor, and I'm truly proud and looking forward to this launch. And we are hoping for a very successful launch. Now, the launch is scheduled for the 10th of April. There will be a Government of Kenya delegation. There will be representatives. It will be headed by the PS Ministry of Defense. But we'll also have representatives from a number of key government ministries, National Treasury, Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Defense, Office of the President, and even the Directorate of Resource Surveys and Remote Sensing. So a mix of many representatives from government just to represent the rest of us in this moment of national pride.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you. We've been talking with Brigadier Hilary Kipkosgei, the Acting Director General at the Kenya Space Agency, talking about the observation satellite, the 3U Earth observation satellite that Kenya is launching in about a couple of days' time. We are proud as a nation to have this happening at such a time as this. So from Newswatch Hope TV, thank you for keeping me company. Thank you. On the sign language interpretation has been Boniface Mureithi. Until next time, have a wonderful evening.